Well, hello, and welcome to Ask the Trade Pro. This is a show where a couple of guys laugh and joke, and occasionally we get to the point and talk about trade stuff. We're here to answer your questions about AC, plumbing, electrical, and any other home system so that you can keep your home running. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Todd. So I know in a lot of previous episodes we talk about plumbing. You guys are probably sick of hearing us talking about plumbing or water to your house or anything like that, pipes, etc. But in this plumbing episode, we're going to be talking about water, not water going through your pipes, but the quality of water.
The water coming out of our faucets is usually completely fine, but occasionally it's not. Now, all of us know that you need to drink good water in order to survive. So today we're going to talk about what type of issues can come up with your water quality, how you might address these water quality issues yourself, or what you can do if you find anything wrong.
Before we get into testing, let's talk about some of the common issues with water. What type of issues do we come across? The most common thing that we're going to hear people talk about is the color of their water. Is it cloudy? Is it yellow? Is it brown? Does it smell? That's a big thing, is smell. Most importantly, is the water clear that you're drinking?
First, we're gonna bring up the point that if you have brown or yellow water, which often means you have rust or collapsed pipes or contaminants from outside the system, you may want to contact your trade professional right away. There are some home tests you can do for that, but that could be a very dangerous situation.
What do you mean? Like your drain line's tied into your water supply line? Is that where we get the brown from?
Well, I hope not.
Or the yellow?
That means you didn't have a trusted trade pro. You had a handyman out there. But, no, I'm thinking more along the lines of rusted pipes where the rust flakes fall into it, or something even as bad as, and hopefully you don't have this, but as bad as Flint, Michigan, where the pipes degraded and bled into the water.
Yeah, lead is another big thing, right? And that's a huge concern.
It's a humongous concern, especially in older towns where the central piping was made out of lead, not just your home piping. We're out here in Tucson, Arizona, and one of the other big issues that we get a lot of customers complaining about is hardness of water. They'll see the calcium buildup, the magnesium buildup, the white crusty flakes that clog up your faucets or mess up the shower wall or clog the shower head. Hardness is another big issue that we see out here.
Yeah, especially glass shower doors. You see that buildup that you could never get clean on the shower doors. That's all signs of hardness. In the Southwest, we have hard water, if not very hard water, which is in our area varying depending on what area of town you're in. It could range from 11 to 14 on that hardness scale. What else, Jordan? What else do we have for water issues and problems?
Well, you covered a little bit about taste, odor, and smell, right? So sometimes it's visual. You can see contaminants in the water, the cloudiness, the hardness looks like a bunch of white fluff floating through there. Also use your taste, odor, and smell. A lot of people say this water tastes funny. Sometimes that's something in the water. It could be they chlorinate water. There's contaminants picked up through the pipes or through the processing center. One of the other issues is if you're on a municipal water, obviously you expect a certain level of filtration on it. Out here, we have a lot of rural customers who are also on well water, and there's a ton of issues with well water. Not only the visual ones, you said the brown waters, yellow waters, the white waters, cloudy waters, taste, odor, and smell, but there could be invisible poisons, arsenic, other things in well water all the time.
So now that we've covered some of the basics of water issues, let's talk about some of the ways we can check to see what type of issues you may or may not have in your water. One way is at-home test kits. You could pick that up at your local hardware store, order it from Amazon, order it from Jordan's favorite place, Temu.
Yeah, just your trusted trade professional advice is do not order your water test kit from Temu.
Who doesn't want to test their water from China?
So it's not bad. It's a $3 test kit is probably not what you want to do. I mean, you want a certain quality to this test kit.
So depending on what type of test kit you're looking for, what issues you may have, if you're worried about hardness or chlorine, something like that, you can get that basic test kit that you could do it yourself and just follow the instructions and test to see what your water is. If you're worried about some of the more serious issues being arsenic or E. coli, some of the bad bacteria that we don't want, then you can take a sample of that water. I know here locally we have a couple places that will actually a lab that tests for that, and we'll get back to you with information. Or there's a lot of mail-in facilities that you can just fill up a bottle and mail it off and wait 7 to 10 days and get your answer.
You're just trying to answer all your questions in one sentence.
In one sentence.
Yeah. So talking a little bit about the at-home test kits, there's a couple of different kinds. There's some what we call chemical tests, which you usually put the water in a cup or a vial or a bottle or something of that nature, and you add a drop of this or drop of that, and based on what happens to the water, it'll tell you if it's hard or if it has chlorine in it or other chemicals.
pH levels.
pH levels you can test. You can test for specific things. There's also electronic home kits that are usually tests for copper, bacteria, dissolved solids in your water, stuff of that nature. So there's a couple of different kind of tests, and when you can buy them at any hardware store, you can buy them online at a reputable place, but just take a look at them and see what you're trying to test for and whether they offer that level of testing on them. Obviously, it's an at-home kit. It's meant as kind of an entry-level test, like an at-home pregnancy test, right? You still go to a doctor and get a test. It's just kind of used to give you a first signal or first call. So there's a lot of different kind of tests you have. Just make a little decision about what you want to be testing for, what your problem is, and then that will kind of guide you to your at-home test to start.
So when should people test for their quality of water? When they notice a strange smell or taste or odor or...
Well, absolutely. But you should probably do it more often than that because some of the stuff is you can't see. It's invisible or it's tasteless, odorless. So periodically, if you have any concern about your municipal water, you might periodically test it. If you're moving into a new house or new facility and you've never lived there, that's when you probably want to do a complete thorough test and send it off to somebody to see what's in it, because some of the things you really don't know. Unfortunately for all those people in Flint, some of them didn't know what was in the water. And the way you find that out is for some of that kind of stuff, arsenic or other things, you really need a lab test.
Yeah. So like Jordan mentioned, and that's where I was leading to, is if you're tapping a new source of water, you're moving into a new house, you're definitely got to know what you're drinking, because sometimes that water may be clear. There might not be something that smells or that looks cloudy and can still have some of these other bacterias or heavy metals in that water that we shouldn't be putting into our bodies.
Right. And sometimes it's not even that average people can't have what's in that water. It might be that you can't have what's in that water. Water's from different sources. So your municipal water is going to come. We're out here in Arizona. Most of ours comes down from the Colorado River, piped in an open canal, which gives it a chance to absorb stuff. And they process it and clean it. But the contents of what's in our water are going to be different than, say, somebody that lives in Georgia or Washington State or somewhere where maybe they're tapping groundwater or river water or some other source of water. And things in the water may be bad for you, but they also may be particular for that individual person. Maybe there's copper in the water. Maybe there's some other nutrient or mineral that's in the water that you don't want.
So we've talked about water issues in this episode: smell, color, chemicals, etc. Different ways to test for those. So I guess the next question is, what do you do if you have a problem with your water, and what solutions are out there to help with that problem? The most common one here in Arizona, as we've talked about, is hardness. So there are options for hardness. There's many water treatment systems available depending on what your issue is, including for the more severe issues with heavy metals, arsenic, bacteria. There is options and solutions for each one of those, the most common being hardness. So that you could do a water softener, water conditioner. There's many options for this. And Jordan's looking at me like he wants to dive right in and tell you more about these water treatment systems.
I'm not diving into any water discussion at all. We do a lot of this. This is one of the most common things. People care a lot about what they put into their bodies or taking care of the fixtures in their house, their appliances. You spend $1,000 on a dishwasher or new washing machine, and you don't want to put waters in there. We have a lot of offerings that can help address hard water or taste, odor, and smell in water. We've discussed this in more detail in other episodes, but I would say just call your trusted trade pro, have them come out. There are a lot of different options depending on what you're trying to achieve that with that water, whether it's drinking water, just cleaner water in your house, whether you want to keep the flavoring that calcium and magnesium provide, why reducing the hardness. There's a lot of options that are available from our point of view that we can install on your house and at all different price ranges depending on what you're trying to achieve with that.
So I guess the number one question is you found a problem with your water. How often should they be testing their water? I know that with well water, they say annual testing needs to be done.
Sounds like a reasonable amount of time, annual, or if something changes, like we talked about, if you moved into a place, you have any reason to suspect something's changed with the water, you get skin ailments, rashes, sickness, anything that kind of makes you nervous about the water. I'm always a fan of, these tests are relatively expensive, especially the at-home testing. Even the lab testing, a lot of times is provided for free or at a relatively low cost. So I would rather over-test than under-test.
Yeah, I would say once a year minimum. them. If you do notice a change, if you do have a different taste or smell, then more frequently if needed.
Yeah, it also depends on the age of your house and stuff of that nature too. If you're on a municipal water supply, they're going to test it regularly on their end, but that doesn't cover the pipes from the supply to you. So if you're in an older development, probably Todd's right, a year or any time of suspicious. If you're in a brand new development, you probably have a little more leeway than that, just because everything is brand new.
So regular water testing is definitely a vital thing to ensure that you're drinking safe water and also for maintaining a healthy water supply. Depending on your needs and resources, testing can be done through home kits, digital meters, and professional labs. Always adhere to your local regulations and guidelines when testing the water, especially in relation to public health and safety standards.
Yeah, water's the essential to your body, so always err on the side of caution and consult your local water standards.
If you liked our water discussion today and want to hear more episodes on water, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, anything,
Bad jokes, whatever.
Jordan's bad jokes, if you want anything at all, be sure to subscribe so we could talk about it in a future episode.
And if you would like, you can leave us a voicemail or send us an email with your silly questions, your funny questions, or even your serious questions, and we may feature them in a future episode. That information on how to do so is in our show notes.
As always, thank you to Done Right Services for sponsoring the show, and thank you for your support. You guys have a wonderful day.